think a lot of times preachers, even overseas, a lot of times overseas, get into things just for money. And I could tell you it's not about money here, all right? But a lot of times preachers overseas in third world nations think, okay, maybe this is a way to get to money, to become a pastor or a preacher, because they see some other people in their nation that somehow rose to fame from that. And they seem like they have lots of money. And so people get into ministry for the wrong reasons, and sometimes very stupidly. However, we want to get into ministry because of God's love for his people, and that is the driving force. Mark 1:41 says this, "Then Jesus, moved with compassion, stretched out his hands and touched him and said to him, 'I am willing, be cleansed.'" I am willing. This is when the person came and said, "If you're willing, can I be healed?" All right. And then Mark 6:34 says, "Then Jesus, when he came out, saw a great multitude and was moved with compassion for them, because they were like sheep not having a shepherd. So he began to teach them many things." And this is where Jesus began teaching, educating. You see God moving in many different ways for healing. He was moved compassion to heal their sick, a multitude of people that were sick, healing one person that was sick, and then teaching a multitude of people. And so compassion can have many different ways to be moving out of your life, but Jesus was moved by that compassion. See, that's what happens when we talk about heartbreak. Heartbreak comes with overwhelming emotions. Perhaps we're so hurt and pain because our heart got broken, and then an overwhelming where we can't even control the tears. Can I tell you sometimes that'll happen with being broken with God's love, where you just might not have as much control over your emotions as you might want. It might be so overwhelming. The weight and glory of God's love for his people is a heavy thing, and God wants our heart to break in that direction. There's a lot of more scriptures here to be talking about, but man, you just look at the prodigal son, look at the father, how when the son came back, the sinner came back, the one who went and took all the father's half of his livelihood and spent it on nothing, all right, came back, the father ran to him and embraced him and threw a party for him. This is God's love. This is the Father's love for us. He rejoices over the one lost one. Remember, it talks about the sheep, the 99. If there's 99 there and one goes astray, he goes after the one and leaves the 99 and go after the one. God's heart is for the lost. If you are found, allow God's heart. If you want to be in the Father's work, if you want to be next to the Father, if you want to be next to God, if you're a mature believer and you want to be next to God and grow close to God, then start getting involved in his work and work with him in his work. Okay? Let me say it again. If you're a mature believer and you're not understanding why you're not feeling the love you had when you first started out, you're not understanding why this love relationship is not matriculating into something more and more, it's perhaps because you've forsaken the work of God, where you are now in a mature place to be running with God after the prodigal son, but instead you decide to be a big brother staying back and asking, why is there a party for someone else and not for me? So church, I want to encourage you, get along with God's party. God's party is running after the lost.